S corporations. S corporations. Yes, this Tuesday. Welcome Tax Talk Tuesday with Tawanna. And I'm just going to give it a few seconds here for some people to get up in the room. So I hope everybody's having a great evening. Forgive my reflection on the glasses. I hadn't quite figured this glasses thing out yet. So forgive me in advance for the glasses. I don't have my music going today. I have been engrossed in my work. So I have not had an opportunity to I didn't have an opportunity to like get my little music queued up and everything. So forgive me, but thank you for joining me today. I know it is Valentine's Day. So Valentine's with an N, not an M, and an apostrophe S, not more than one. All right. So welcome to Tax Talk Tuesday. For those who are new here, I am Tawanna Bryant Osborne, accountant and tax strategist and owner of Bryant Business Solutions, based out of Columbia, South Carolina. However, we serve the entire U.S. All right. Bryant Business Solutions is an international accounting and tax firm, and we specialize in sustainable financial solutions that, as a firm, what we do is we evaluate, we diagnose, and we prescribe financial strategies to minimize your tax liabilities and your audit risk. We also provide cash management and financial projections and to help you attain a competitive edge in your industry to improve your bottom line, those net profits, okay? And we do this with four main divisions, and that's accounting services, tax preparation and planning, two separate services, business consulting and development, and CFO services. All right. And so this week, what we're going to discuss is 5 mistakes that are made when we're converting to an S Corp. So, everybody's saying the next hottest thing is converting to an S Corp. Oh, everybody should be an S Corp. However, everybody should not be an S Corp. And when we first look at the S Corps, the corporate tax rules for forming an S Corp actually seems pretty simple, right? Right? Drop a 1 in the chat. And if you're catching this on the replay, #replay, but drop a 1 in the chat if everything you've heard about converting to an S Corp it sounds pretty simple. You just fill out your little form and you go about your business, or you check a box and you go about your business, right? Well, the rules aren't as simple as we think they are. Now, I'm not going to go deep into explaining every single one because that's beyond the scope of what I wanted to share. But I at least want you to be aware, and I'll discuss a few in just a little bit more greater detail, okay? First, let me share the requirements, the basic requirements for converting to an S Corp, okay? And these are 5 things your business have to look at when it comes to operating as an S corporation. So the S corporation must be a domestic corporation. That's the first thing. So you said, Tawanna, what's a domestic corporation? A domestic corporation is a corporation that does business in the jurisdiction in which it is incorporated. So what I think about when I hear that is, everyone's saying, okay, start your corporation in Delaware. But if you're doing business in Georgia and your physical location is in Georgia, you have to fill out those papers in Georgia also. So don't get yourself caught up in saying I'm basing my business somewhere to save on taxes when you may not really be doing that. You're not looking at it that way because being an S Corp is simple, right? So the S Corp has to have fewer than 100 shareholders. For those who don't know, and forgive me, IG and Facebook, I'm looking between the two. But for those who don't know, a shareholder is different from an owner of an LLC. A shareholder is the person or institution, it could be one or the other, that has invested money in corporation in exchange for a share of the ownership in that company, okay? And that ownership is represented by common or preferred shares issued by the company and held or owned by the shareholder, okay? So don't get the two confused. When you have an LLC, I know people tend to say, even once they become an S Corp, oh, it was an owner's draw. No, it was a shareholder's distribution or contribution. Okay. So we have to be careful with our language that we use as well. As business owners, we have to educate ourselves on the language and the dialogue that we use. Okay. Number 3, the S Corp shareholders can be only people, estates, and certain types of trust. So that's the other big thing going around now. Put the business in your trust. Well, is it the proper type of trust to hold an S Corp? Or are we just letting people do things and sign us up for stuff that we're not fully aware of? But yeah, be careful because there's only certain types of trust that you can have. Number 4, all stockholders must be U.S. residents. And 5, this S Corp can have only one class of stock. And a class is actually a class of shares is a type of listed company stock that's differentiated by the level of voting rights that each shareholder receives. For example, a listed company might have 2 share classes or classes of stock, and it's designated as Class A and Class B. Well, what this is saying is you don't get Class A and Class B. You only get Class A or Class B, okay? So make sure we understand those basic rules when switching or converting to an S Corp. And all that sounds simple, right? Sounds simple, easy enough. Well, what often appears simple on the surface is not simple at all. Mistakes can happen because there's some rules and regulations that are not so in your face. Okay, we know we got a lot of tax laws out there. And if you breach them, your S Corp that you thought you had will mysteriously switch into a C Corp. And the results of this happening can actually be pretty tragic for you in your business. Okay, so don't just go out here and not being educated on what it is to be an S Corp and what your rules, the rules and responsibilities and the regulations that you have to adhere to as an S corporation. Don't go out here violating because you're mysteriously, it could switch over and you don't even know it. All right. And then you should be classified in another way based upon what you're doing in that business. So don't let this be you. Now, you know, my recommendation is always to seek a professional, always, when it comes to your business, accounting, and taxes. So here's some areas that may actually apply to you. So first thing, all right, common mistakes. First thing, you want to think about your spouse. If you're in a community property state, your spouse, by reason of community property law, may be the owner of your corporation and you don't even know it. Now, this can be true whether or not your spouse has stock in his or her own name because it's community property. Okay, so we have to adhere to that. If your spouse is an owner, your spouse has to meet all of the same qualifications and requirements that you do. And this can raise 2 issues. If your spouse does not consent to the S corporation election or that form 2553 that everybody talks about and says that's all it is, just fill this out and you become an S corp, your S corp isn't valid. And if your spouse is a non-resident alien, your S corp is not valid. Okay. So that's the first thing. You want to consider your spouse. Second, please understand there's more than one method to convert from an LLC to an S corp. Okay. Method number 1, to convert your LLC to an S corp for tax purposes, you can use a method that we like to call check and elect. I know for y'all, I'm down south. It's easy, just 2 steps. First, you check the box to make your LLC or C corp. Then you elect for the IRS to tax your C Corp as an S Corp when you register your business, or your corporation as an S Corp when you register your business. So here's how you take those 2 steps. Yeah, I'm telling you a how. Usually I just tell you what and why. I'm giving you a how, so you better take notes. File that Form 8832. Check the box that converts your LLC to that corporation. And then file the Form 2553 to convert your C Corp into an S Corp. Okay, that's way number 1. Method number 2, your LLC can skip that whole C Corp step and directly elect S Corporation status by just filing that 2553. Again, you still have to understand everything that goes into that. It's not just filing that 2553. It's more to it. So yeah, I gave you the basic how, but there's more to it than that. And always remember, when people are sharing on social media, there's something missing. There's a component that's typically missing, or more education or research that has to be done, or understanding or clarity that's needed before you just go do something and say, oh, I can do this because I read very well. But there's also additional steps that we sometimes don't take into consideration. Now, number 3, third common mistake is there's additional taxes that applies to C Corps switching to an S Corp. All right. So you want to take that into consideration and understand what those liabilities may be, and if your C Corp fits that criteria that ends up incurring additional taxes. All right. Number 4, there are loans that wipe out your S Corp status. Certain types of loans can wipe you out. We out here just doing stuff. We out here just TikTok university in it, and I'm on TikTok, so I don't slight TikTok, but we still have to do our due diligence. So don't make a bad loan to your S Corp, and with the wrong type of loan, you allowed IRS to treat that loan as a second class of stock that disqualifies your S Corp status. Now, small loans are typically okay, and then those larger ones are more closely scrutinized. So take that into consideration and make note of that. If you have a larger loan, your loan can escape the second class of stock trap if you meet certain requirements. So make sure, again, that you understand what those responsibilities are, okay? And number 5, and I'm not going to go in depth about this one because y'all know I don't like to keep you long on Tuesdays, but timing of filing your S Corp status can make a huge difference. Don't go jumping into an S Corp or any other type of entity for that matter, okay, without weighing the pros, cons, and requirements that come along with each structure. Don't go doing that. Don't go just jumping the gun before you've gotten educated in that on what you're jumping into, okay? As well as those costs that gets incurred as you're switching entity types. So to wrap it up, remember these 5 mistakes that are made when converting to an S Corp, that you want to think about your spouse more than just today. We want to think about them a few more days out of the year, and more often than not, especially in those community property states. We want to think about our spouses, and that there's more than one way to elect an S Corp status. There are also certain loans that can wipe our statuses out, and you want to be aware of the additional taxes that apply to some C corporations. And of course, as I just stated, timing. Timing is so important. Now, if you're thinking about converting to an S Corp, or you haven't set up your business structure yet and you need more information or just a little more understanding of the different entity types, you can grab a copy of my business legal structure. It's a quick start guide to selecting your entity. It's an ebook. And tonight for Valentine's Day, you can use the code Valentine with an N 50. Valentine 50, and that'll get you 50% off until tomorrow at 8 p.m. You'll just click the link. I'm going to drop a link below. So you click that link below, and you can grab that, your copy of that, so that you can get a little more educated on the different entity types that are out there, and the pros and cons of each type. All right. So I have chatted you guys up. Like I said, I'm not going to keep you on here. Does anyone have any questions that they need answered? And hopefully Facebook, I can see your questions. I know last time when I got off, I saw comments after the fact. I don't know what I did different, that sometimes I'm able to see comments. But if you don't get your answer question on here, just drop it in the chat below. I'll come back and dialogue with you some, to get some of your questions answered all the time. You can click the link in my bio, book a discovery call, and I'll be more than happy to see if we're a good fit to work together, and we can move forward from there. And I can explain to you a little bit more about our services and what it is that we offer. But first and foremost, start with the basics. Learn more about the different entity types before you begin structuring your business, so you're educated in that area before you go doing that. Don't, even when you have a professional, you have to have some level of understanding in your business. Okay. So do that for me. You guys go and have a fabulous evening, and I will see you next Tuesday with Tax Talk Tuesday. All right. Good night.